Sometimes, the most powerful people in the room aren't the ones sitting at the head of the table. Sometimes, they're the ones pouring the coffee, sweeping the floors, listening when no one thinks they matter. I used to believe I had to stay quiet to survive, that speaking up would only bring trouble. But now I know staying silent was the real danger. The world is full of families like the Halbergs, full of secrets wrapped in wealth, guarded by fear. But no secret survives forever, not when someone is willing to shine a light. I wasn't born brave. I became brave because I had no other choice. And if you're watching this, feeling small, or overlooked or afraid to speak up, please know this: you matter. You see things others don't, and your voice, even if it shakes, can change everything. Not every battle is loud. Some start in whispers, in stolen documents, in late-night walks down dusty hallways. But every truth, no matter how hidden, wants to be free. And every person, no matter how invisible they've been made to feel, deserves to be seen. I wasn't just a housekeeper. I was a witness, a fighter, a reminder that even in the shadows, there's power. And when the truth finally comes to light, it's unstoppable. They told me the job was simple: keep the house clean, follow the rules, don't ask questions. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. A live-in position at a mansion, no experience required, generous pay, and food included. Too good to be true, absolutely. But I didn't realize that until the butler died. He was the only one who treated me like a person, not just a disposable servant. Quiet, polite, but his eyes were always scanning, as if he was afraid of something. One night, he left a note under my door, for words that still haunt me: "You're in danger too." By morning, he was gone. They said it was natural causes, but I'd seen the bruises, the panic in his voice the night before. That's when I knew I hadn't been hired because I was qualified. I was hired because I didn't know the truth, and someone wanted to keep it that way. Before all of this, before the mansion, the secrets, and the lies, I was just trying to survive. I didn't come from much. Grew up in a one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and paper-thin walls. My mom worked double shifts just to keep the lights on. My dad, he left before I could remember his face. Life didn't give us many chances, so we took what we could. After high school, I bounced between dead-end jobs: dishwasher, delivery driver, stock clerk. Nothing stuck. Nothing paid enough. I slept on couches, sometimes in my car. Some nights, I skipped dinner just to make sure my younger cousin could eat. I was tired of waiting for a break that never came. Then one day, out of nowhere, I got a message. A woman claiming to be a personal assistant to a wealthy family said they were hiring a housekeeper, no experience needed, room and board included, high pay. I thought it was a scam, but something about the message felt real. I replied out of desperation. Within hours, she called. Her voice was calm to calm. She asked only one question: "Are you discreet?" I paused, then said yes. She gave me an address and told me to pack for a long stay. No interview, no paperwork, just show up. I had nothing to lose, no one depending on me, no future in sight. So I packed a bag, scraped together what little cash I had left, and took a bus to a place I couldn't afford to dream about. I told myself this could be the start of something better, but now I know I wasn't walking into opportunity. I was walking into a trap. I just didn't see it yet. I arrived just after sunset. The mansion stood at the end of a winding road, hidden behind iron gates and towering oak trees. It looked like something out of a movie: huge stone walls, windows that stretched from floor to ceiling, and silence that felt unnatural, not peaceful, just cold. A woman in a black suit met me at the front door. She didn't smile, just nodded, and said, "You're expected." I stepped inside, and everything I thought I knew about the rich changed instantly. Marble floors so polished they reflected the chandeliers above, velvet curtains, paintings older than anything I'd ever studied in school. Even the air smelled expensive, like old books and something floral I couldn't name. She led me to my room. It was larger than any apartment I'd ever lived in. There was a 4-poster bed, a fireplace, and a view of the garden that seemed to go on forever. I should have felt lucky. Instead, I felt watched. That night, over dinner in the servants' quarters, I met the rest of the staff. There was Joseph, the cook, kind, quiet, always humming old jazz songs. A maid named Eliza who never looked anyone in the eyes. And then Mr. Eldridge, the butler. He was polite, but you could tell he carried the weight of something unspoken. He welcomed me gently, but with a look that lingered a little too long, like he knew something I didn't. The family I was serving was barely ever seen. Mrs. Halberg, the widow, stayed mostly in her wing of the house. Her son, Victor, came and went in black cars, always on the phone, always serious. There were rules: never enter the West Wing, never speak unless spoken to, never ask questions. At first, I thought rich people were just eccentric, but something about this house felt more like a stage. And all of us, we were playing roles we hadn't auditioned for. It started with little things: a locked door that didn't seem like it should be locked, footsteps at night when everyone was supposed to be asleep, lights turning on and off in rooms no one had entered. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that I was just overwhelmed by the size of the house, by the silence that echoed in every hallway. But deep down, something didn't sit right. Eldridge, the butler, was the first to drop hints, quiet ones. One morning while pouring coffee, he said softly, without looking at me, "Things aren't always what they seem here." I tried to ask what he meant, but he simply walked away. That became his pattern: small warnings, quick glances, and then silence. Then I noticed the family photo in the main hallway. 5 people were in it, but one face had been carefully cut out, not torn or scribbled over, surgically removed. That night, I stayed up late cleaning the library and stumbled across an old ledger tucked behind a stack of books. Inside were pages of handwritten notes, names, bank accounts, amounts. I didn't understand most of it, but something about it felt dangerous. The next morning, the ledger was gone, like it had never been there. Then came the noises, low murmurs behind locked doors, the sound of something being dragged across the floor above me when I knew no one else was home. One night, as I passed Mr. Eldridge's room, I heard raised voices. Victor was in there, angry. I couldn't make out the words, but I heard one sentence clear as day: "If this gets out, it's your head." The door slammed. Eldridge came out later that evening, pale and shaking. He didn't say anything, just placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "Be careful who you trust." Then, as he walked away, he slipped something into my hand. It was a brass key, old and worn, with a tag that read, "Storage, East Wing." The East Wing wasn't off limits, but no one ever went there. It was dark, dusty, and untouched, like the family had forgotten it existed. Why would he give me a key to a place that held nothing, unless it didn't hold nothing? I stared at the key that night, unable to sleep. I had come here for a job, to clean floors, change sheets, mind my business. But I was beginning to realize this wasn't just a job. It was a puzzle, one that someone didn't want solved, and I had just found the first piece. I waited 3 days before using the key. Every time I passed Mr. Eldridge in the hallway, he nodded once, like he was waiting for me to decide. But the house felt heavier, tighter. I started noticing more locks, more cameras, or maybe they had always been there, and I was just now paying attention. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, I took the key and slipped into the East Wing. The air was thick with dust and silence. The floorboards creaked under my steps, like they were warning the house I was there. At the end of the hallway, I found the door labeled storage. I turned the key slowly, heart racing in my chest, and stepped inside. It wasn't a storage room. Not really. Old furniture covered in white sheets. Yes, but that wasn't what caught my eye. Hidden beneath a broken mirror, I found a metal box. Inside it, folders, dozens of them, and a flash drive taped to the lid. The folders were filled with documents, bank transfers, company records, even medical files. But what chilled me most were the letters. Letters from Mr. Eldridge to someone named Samuel, a name I had never heard in that house. The letters spoke of deception, of stolen inheritance, of someone being erased. I plugged the flash drive into a laptop the next day when no one was watching. What I saw made my stomach drop. Video footage. One of them showed Victor in the study, yelling at Mr. Eldridge, waving a document in the air. Another showed a man, someone who looked like he belonged to the family being forced into a black car, never to return. Samuel, he wasn't a stranger. He was part of the Hallberg family, a son, a brother. But he had been cut out, and Mr. Eldridge had been gathering evidence ever since. That same night, I returned to my room to find my belongings tossed on the floor. Drawers open, mattress flipped. Someone knew I was snooping. There was a note on my pillow. 5 words, "You're not invisible to everyone." My hands trembled as I read it. I thought about leaving, packing my bag and disappearing before sunrise. But something stopped me. Mr. Eldridge had trusted me. He had risked everything to uncover the truth. And now, so had I, but the deeper I dug, the clearer it became this wasn't just about a broken family or stolen money. This was about power, control, and someone was willing to kill to protect it. The morning Mr. Eldridge died, the house went eerily quiet. No footsteps, no clinking dishes, no distant humming from the kitchen, just silence. I was in the hallway when the medics rolled his body past me, wrapped in a black bag. No emotion, no explanation. The official story, heart attack in his sleep, natural causes. But I knew better. The night before, I had heard him arguing again. Not yelling whispers, urgent, frantic. I had pressed my ear against his door just in time to hear him say, "They know, it's too late." And now he was gone. Later that day, I found Victor alone, in the study, pouring himself a drink like it was any other Tuesday. "You were close with Eldridge, weren't you?" he said, not looking at me. I didn't answer. He turned, ice clinking in the glass. His smile was polite, but his eyes were knives. "Loyalty," he said, "is the only thing that keeps this house standing. Disloyal people tend to disappear." That was a threat, dressed in silk, wrapped in a smirk, but a threat all the same. I wanted to confront him, scream, throw the evidence in his face, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I went to Mrs. Hallberg. She looked older than when I first met her, frail, tired, like she was carrying a lifetime of secrets on her back. I told her I knew about Samuel, about the documents, the footage. She didn't deny it. She just stared out the window and whispered, "I never wanted this. I wanted peace. But Victor, he's his father's son." I asked her why they hired me. Why me? Of all people. She closed her eyes and said, "Because you didn't belong. Because you wouldn't be missed." That broke me. I wasn't chosen for trust. I was chosen for invisibility. Eldridge had been the only one who saw me, who believed I was more than just another disposable worker. And now he was dead. I walked out of that room shaking. Whatever happened next, I knew I was alone. But I also knew this. The truth was still buried in that house, and someone had to dig it up. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The walls felt like they were closing in, like the house itself knew I was getting too close. So I made a choice. If I was going to get out of this, I needed to expose everything. I went back to the East Wing, this time in daylight. I needed to act like I belonged, like I had nothing to hide. I used the key again, reopened the hidden box, and took everything, the letters, the files, the flash drive. I tucked them beneath my uniform and walked out like it was just another cleaning day. Then I did something dangerous. I used Victor's office computer. He always locked it. But that morning, by some miracle or mistake, it had been left on. I plugged in the flash drive and copied the contents into an email. I sent it to every major news outlet I could think of. Anonymous, no names, no trace. And just as I hit send, the door creaked open. Victor. He stared at me, silent, until his eyes dropped to the flash drive still in my hand. He didn't say a word, just lunged. We struggled. He grabbed my wrist. I shoved him back. The flash drive flew across the room and hit the floor. I ran through the hallway, down the stairs, out the servant's door. I didn't stop until I was off the estate. I hid in a cheap motel for 2 days, checking my phone obsessively. Then the headlines started rolling in. Family fortune built on lies. Missing Hallberg's son allegedly erased. Whistleblower releases shocking evidence of inheritance fraud. It all came out. The embezzlement, the cover-up, Samuel's disappearance, Mr. Eldridge's hidden investigation. They couldn't hide it anymore. Victor was arrested within the week. Mrs. Halberg disappeared from the public eye. The mansion was sealed off, investigated, declared a crime scene. And me, I was never named. I stayed anonymous, the invisible housekeeper who had finally been seen. I didn't do it for revenge or money. I did it because Mr. Eldridge believed in me, because Samuel deserved to be remembered, because power shouldn't mean immunity. The truth didn't just destroy a family, it freed the ghosts trapped inside that house. And as for me, I walked away not with fear, but with something I'd never felt before. Purpose. I never thought one job could change my entire life. But standing in front of that mansion, watching police tape flutter in the wind, I realized I was no longer the person who first stepped through those gates. I came in looking for stability, a paycheck, a roof over my head. I left with scars, yes, but also with clarity. When you grow up poor, you're taught to keep your head down, to take what you're given, to never question power because power is never on your side. But that house taught me something else. Silence protects the powerful, but truth sets people free. I thought I was just a help, a nobody, hired because I wouldn't ask questions. But the very thing they saw as weakness, my invisibility, became my greatest weapon. Because I saw everything, I listened, I paid attention, and when it mattered most, I didn't run. After everything came out, I received a letter, no return address. Inside was a handwritten note and a check, more money than I'd ever seen in my life. The note said, "For seeing what others ignored, for giving Samuel back his name." I didn't cash it right away. I sat with it for days, because this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about meaning. Eventually, I used it to start something small, a shelter for kids who'd been overlooked like I was, a place where invisibility isn't a curse, but a shield until they're ready to rise. My life didn't change because I found wealth. It changed because I finally understood my worth, and no one, no family, no mansion, no threat can ever take that from me again. Sometimes, the most powerful people in the room aren't the ones sitting at the head of the table. Sometimes, they're the ones pouring the coffee, sweeping the floors, listening when no one thinks they matter. I used to believe I had to stay quiet to survive, that speaking up would only bring trouble. But now I know staying silent was the real danger. The world is full of families like the Halbergs, full of secrets wrapped in wealth, guarded by fear. But no secret survives forever, not when someone is willing to shine a light. I wasn't born brave. I became brave because I had no other choice. And if you're watching this, feeling small or overlooked or afraid to speak up, please know this: you matter. You see things others don't, and your voice, even if it shakes, can change everything. Not every battle is loud. Some start in whispers, in stolen documents, in late-night walks down dusty hallways. But every truth, no matter how hidden, wants to be free. And every person, no matter how invisible they've been made to feel, deserves to be seen. I wasn't just a housekeeper. I was a witness, a fighter, a reminder that even in the shadows, there's power. And when the truth finally comes to light, it's unstoppable.